The FDA is taking action to address unapproved thyroid medications. This is all well beyond my pay grade. This happened in August of 2025. So let's start at the beginning. This thyroid medication, what that they're talking about, what is it? What are we talking about?
So they're specifically talking about desiccated thyroid extracts. Okay. And again, that may be good for you to bounce back some questions, maybe about some of the details. But basically, it's porcine or pig thyroid. Okay, that's extracted essentially for its T4, which is levothyroxine, and T3 liothyronine activity. So typically, when somebody has hypothyroidism, they go on a medication. If they're at that level, they get put on levothyroxine, which is T4 and T4 alone. This is a little bit more of an alternative version of that. They're getting T4, but then there's also T3. And I think part of maybe what some of the controversy is, it's a whole gland extract, that there's other components in there that are not regulated, that are not well known, that are not well studied. It's not just T4 and T3.
Okay, it's not just T4 and T3, and that's part of the problem, or maybe even a lot of the problem.
Yeah.
It's literally from the pig gland. So I assume when it's being handled and extracted,
that means dried out.
Yeah, like it's literally, yeah. It's been around since the 1800s. So back then, you could imagine they were just taking the gland, pieces of the gland.
So,
go ahead.
Desiccated literally meaning dried out.
Dried out thyroid gland extract.
Okay.
Yes, from pigs. Yes.
All right. And this has been used as kind of an alternative to levothyroxine or any of the big name thyroid medicine.
Yes. And to me, what direction I could see a lot of people going is, hey, Throid, levothyroxine, that's what my doctor usually wants me on. That's like the standard. And as soon as something's alternative, like the desiccated thyroids encompass armor thyroid, nature Throid, some compounded. So it's a little more in the alternative realm. And so I think, FDA is banning the alternative stuff. Look what they're doing. So I think there's a couple nuances there. Just they're not banning them. Basically, desiccated thyroid in whatever form, whether you're getting it from a compounding pharmacy or whether it's Armor or Nature or WP, it predates FDA approval. So it's regulated in terms of it's still under the purview of the FDA, but it has not been approved and gone through the drug approval process because, like Dante said, it dates back to the 1800s. So it's almost like grandfathered in.
Yeah.
So they're basically just taking an opportunity. The why the timing of it, sure, but they're saying, okay, we're not banning you, but unless you go through the process to get this approved via the FDA, which they have not done, not out of some nefarious motivation, but because they predate it, then you're not approved. They're giving them a year to do that. Okay. So I just, again, want to clear the air on some of exactly what's going on.
So it's not disappearing from store shelves tomorrow.
A year.
They've got a year. And whether or not they follow through and get this approved, we'll find out. But as of right now, the FDA has said, you've got a year to get this tested and approved to make sure that it's all good. So what are their big complaints? The FDA is not into this because of the other things. It's not the T3 and the T4. It's the other stuff that's in there.
Yeah, and there has been some history of some batch to batch issues. Some of the the extracts have not been of the labeling that's on there. And those have been recalled. So again, you can kind of say, why is this going on? So I think they really just want to get them approved and standardized. And then again, there's other ingredients in there, T1, T2, there's other ingredients in there that make up a gland that have never been studied or looked at.
And it's still an animal product.
It is. Mm-hmm.
I had no idea about all of this. Keep going.
Yes. I mean, there's a couple different directions. I think one of them is, why would somebody be on this, and why would they want to be on this instead of levothyroxine?
Right.
So the main thing, and maybe to jump to the pharmacological end, is that it contains T3. T3 is the more active form. Basically, your body is converting the T4 to the active form T3, and that's what's exerting the effort. So there is, so we can get into some of the details, there is maybe what I would call a substantial minority, a significant minority of people that have a better experience maybe not from their TSH level or some of their lab work, but that have a bit more symptom improvement and sense of well-being by having some T3 on board versus just the straight T4.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Why you would stick with that. Is there any substantial price difference or anything like that?
From on our end of things, I don't really think there's a huge price difference. The only issue in price difference is a lot of the desiccated products aren't recognized on formularies. So I think there's probably a skew towards out-of-pocket payment for these thyroids. But that's part, that just kind of like feeds this whole thing, is that people are like, I swear by this, I pay this money for this. It's my money. They're banning it. Mm-hmm. So it is just, you got people's identities wrapped up in which thyroid product they're taking. Sorry. But yeah, it's rough. Like it's a rough one, because we're the ones getting the phone call, trying to explain what might be an option for you temporarily if some of these manufacturers pursue the proper steps at this point to seek approval, which it sounds like some might. But it's going to take longer than the 12-month transition period.
And these drug companies aren't going to do it, and then we're going to be in the same financial position.
I was just going to say
in
that
2 years that it's going to go up to brand level. My assumption is, $300, $500, $600 a month.
Wow.
Now, hopefully insurance will step in and cover them at that point once they've gone through the process. So I do think, it's important to, again, note that there is a substantial minority of people that do respond better to these. There's a couple different angles here. The natural aspect, and I've had this conversation many times.
Yeah.
Depends what your view of natural is. Like Dante mentioned, it is an animal product. And also it's in a ratio, a T4 to T3 ratio of 4-1. That's a pig ratio. The ratio in humans is 14-1.
Oh, wow.
So, the whole natural end, if you prefer natural from animal source versus what's quote unquote synthetic
in a lab, right?
In a broad sense, I get that. But what I often say to people is that the T4 and T3 that is synthetic and made in a lab ends up as a bioidentical product. It ends up as your body contains levothyroxine. You're not putting a chemical in your body that is mimicking the effects of levo or leothyronine. It is a synthetically made bioidentical product, if that makes sense.
Yeah. If we took it out of your body and we took the actual product and we looked at them under a microscope, you would not be able to tell which one was which, because they're the same thing.
Yes. There's not a difference in effectiveness. So again, the natural works better for me. It's like, okay, let's back up. The natural is working better for you, which again, there are studies showing that in a substantial minority, that is the case. It works better for you because there's T3 in there. It's not because it's natural. It's not because the synthetic, you don't respond to the synthetic. Right. It's working better for you. I validate that. Studies validate that in some people. It's because there's T3 in there.
So are there any mainstream products right now that have T3 in them?
The short answer would be to switch to levothyroxine or Throid by itself to get the same T4 portion, and then switch to leothyronine or Cytomel by itself, which does exist as a product in 5 microgram, 10 microgram, etc. And you can get pretty darn close to the ratio that you were getting in the desiccated animal derived products. Or if there's an issue with a dye, or there's this filler that Throid had that you couldn't do, there's all these, you wouldn't believe the layers to this.
Yeah.
You could always have it compounded, and you can have T4 and T3 together, or it could be separate. It could be, whatever your provider wants you to have. If they want you to continue on it, there are ways to still take T3 and T4. It just might look a little different.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's great news. I know these sorts of changes really ruffle people's feathers.
Understandably so.
Yeah, you get settled into a routine and things are working. Stop messing with it. Just leave it alone. But the punchline is, regardless of whether the companies get it approved or not, there are ways that you can get that same effect right now with products that are available, especially if you're compounding. Definitely.
And so people may say, well, why wouldn't you want T3? Why isn't everybody just on T3 if that's what's active? And essentially it does raise the risk of increased heart rate, raises the risk of atrial fibrillation. Okay. So there are cardiovascular risks if you're not being monitored properly, if you kind of just jump on it. So it is something to be careful with. I think that's important to mention. Again, in the whole scheme of, why they want this approved, it's because, yes, T3 is approved as Cytomel alone, but you've also got this kind of, this kind of middle ground one that has some other stuff too that's never really been approved that has T3 in it. So maybe we can clamp down a little bit and make sure that people on T3 are getting a certain product and it's been, regulated in the same way.
Better understood. Sure,
yes.
Sure. All right. So for anybody out there that is currently using a desiccated thyroid product, one of the what do you say, animal sourced thyroid products, what's the punchline that the 2-second takeaway that people need to know?
I think the key is to understand that from clinically speaking, you are receiving benefit and you prefer this over, maybe, you probably started on T4, the levothyroxine or Synthroid. You prefer it because there's T3 in it. And T3 can still be obtained without doing the natural desiccated thyroid. Again, it goes back to what I said earlier. The view of natural coming from a pig in those ratios, the entire gland of a pig versus, yes, synthetically made, bioidentical, is still something, again, I've had that conversation multiple times.
Sure.
The other thing that happens that I think that's key is if you're on one of these products, you're moving in a fixed ratio. So what I mean is your doctor may want to raise your T3, but he can't do that without raising your T4. Or he may want to raise your T4, but man, this T3 is hanging fine. Do we really want to raise this more active, this one with more potential issues of T3? Whenever you get a Cytomel or you get it compounded, you have the option to leave one and raise the other. You have that option. So in my opinion, I think these are fine, but I think they're good because they contain T3 for certain people. Not better for everyone,
sure,
but for those people who have not gotten symptom relief despite having a normal TSH, I think that that's still a great thing that T3 would be on board for them, but it still can be done. It can be done via Cytomel, via something that ends up bioidentical, via a compound with more customization options.
Love it. Very cool. Well, if that was helpful to you, share it with somebody. Lots and lots of people are using these products. It's very important that we get this information out so that people can stay up to date on what is changing in the world.